Okay, so Mafia The Old Country. Let's talk. Let's put our thoughts together on this one. So, I had a fun time playing this game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being the action adventure stuff of this game is. I loved the music. I loved the setting. The environment was gorgeous to sort of drive around, have a see of it. The knife fights was a fun mechanic in this game. Like a dance is how it was described. And you've got like some stealth aspects of this game, which the game does throw at you frequently, but you don't exactly have to stealth your way through these games, through those missions. You can just go all out. Combat isn't anything spectacular. It is just a sort of simplistic, basic rundown. You've got a cover shooter, enemies and all stuff. Maybe it also depends on the difficulty setting. I played it on the hardest difficulty that the game offered, and it made it so that vehicles have the most realistic collision. So that made it challenge and resource management on the hardest difficulty, and I was perfectly fine with it. There was no issues there whatsoever. I did find the resources management something I really had to sort of monitor. It specifically was for the knife, because the knife mechanic in this game, you need a whetstone to recharge it, otherwise it runs out of uses, but we'll get into that anyway. So, Mafia The Old Country is set in 1904 period, before Mafia 1 and 2 and 3. So it's sort of the beginning of where the Mafia family started. And you play as Enzo, and you are following his journey of his goal, dreams, and aspirations to have a better life for himself. So you don't know much about Enzo in the beginning, but you just know for a fact that at some point in his childhood, he was sold to the mine where the game begins, and he's known as a carusu. Carusu, I'm making sure I don't pronounce this right. Carusu, which is the slang terminology used for mine boy. And they are perceived in this game as the absolute low class of people. And that is always a nickname for him. Throughout the game, Carusu is always brought up. So you follow his story of what he wants, because he's very determined, passionate, he's driven to have a better life for himself, and how he ends up with the Don Torrisi family, and how he sort of climbs the ranks. So overall, I'd say this was a fun game. I had enjoyed my time. I had a good time playing. I know for a fact that this game, for new people coming into it, look, the Mafia game it's always just been about the story. It's never really been so much about exploring, finding things, doing side activities. There really isn't much there, to be truthfully honest. There is some collection stuff to do in this game. I didn't really spend a lot of time doing that. I think I took one moment out of the story to go into explore mode so that I could sort of drive around a little bit, collect a few things. I did it mainly so that I could get some extra money that I could then use the resources so I can do a specific few upgrades, purchase a few new weapons. That was what I did, and then I kind of just dive back into the story, run through it. So this is a 14 chapter game, and then the prologue is your 15 chapter. So that's pretty much it. It is not a long game. I think the average time you could spend playing this would be I think the average you're looking at is about 15 hours. Something like that. Like, it's something that you could finish in a day for some people, 2. But for the most casualist of people that can only spend a couple hours, look, it'll take them a few days. So I will point out some spoilers in this game. I think I'll discuss that at near the end of this video. I'll just sort of go into just explain the story aspect, where it leads up, how it ends, what's the connection into Mafia 1 and 2. I simply would say that the connection is to Mafia 2, because Empire Bay does exist in this universe. Empire Bay is there. So when you begin the game, you encounter Enzo. He's in the mines. He's got his friend, and his friend is talking about a dream to get to Empire Bay. So, Empire Bay exists, and I think that's sort of the goal streamline is a better life essentially is probably leaving the country. So the game is set in Sicily, Italy, 1904. Like I said, this had a gorgeous environment. I really enjoyed it. I did see a lot of fruits in this game, and the gameplay itself, nothing to say that it was the most out there experience. No, it was the most basic stuff there is. But it's really just about the story that carries you through it. So as you start the game, Enzo encounters the main crux of characters that he interacts the most with. You're introduced to them, and that is his best friend Cesare, Luca, Don Torrisi. It is Don Torrisi's best friend and advisor, which is Tino, and there's also Leo. I'm just trying to make sure I can pronounce the words correctly. And Leo's grandfather, who I'm drawing a blank on his name. We'll get to that later. But you encounter all these people, and you're given like the story of how they interact with each other. So I would say like between the prologue and chapter 4 is probably the slowest aspects of this game. They really sort of ease you into the mechanics of the game and just want you to feel it is sort of like a movie in retrospect in a way. It's very slow. You just have to do things, follow a process of missions, and you just learn what the mechanics in the game are. And you're introduced to the mechanics. You're introduced to how stealth works in this game, knife fighting, combat to a point, and the driving in the game. You know, the four things you do repeatedly as you go through the game. But in true style of Mafia, it is mainly about the story, how it unfolds, where it begins, the middle, and the end. So I did see, like, after I finished it, I went around and checked out like some Reddit threads on the game, people's thoughts and opinions about how they felt about the game going towards the end. And it was interesting just to read, to see how people do. It shows that maybe depending on some people, they don't know Mafia games. There's 3 in the series, and like, you know, going from Mafia from 1 and 2, I have played all of them, and I've finished all these games, and it is akin to Mafia 1 and 2. There's a lot of throwback to those styles. I think specifically as well, in Mafia 1, I think the fun thing was, and the most hated aspect, but that definitely got fixed with like the re-release of the original, was there was a moment in the game where you have to do a race. And in Mafia The Old Country, yes, you do a race. The one thing I think I had the hardest time getting control of myself was just the driving. I think because I couldn't do it properly. I mean, I got in there in the end, but like the driving part was interesting. But, you know, there's nothing there. So, one aspect of this game I really liked was those knife fight mechanics. So, those end boss fights where it's a dance, and you need to just like, there was something satisfying with the parry mechanic when you hear that ting noise and you parry the attack, and then you can follow up with your own attacks. The game sort of throws you into one, and all you do is, because it's in the early starts of the game, you just have to attack the enemy and you can dodge. Nothing there. It's a bit later that you get taught like, okay, now you can actually, you know, do perfect dodges and parries. If you can actually perfect dodge an enemy's attack, specifically, they will do an attack that you can't parry. You just have to dodge it. And if you can perfect dodge, you can actually counterattack and normal parry on other attacks. You also have like a heavy attack. If the enemy is sort of blocking and you can't break through, you do the heavy attack, you can break the defenses and you can swing in. And yeah, those were fun little fights. There's little interlog in between the fights. There's a lot of discussion, talking about between the characters, what's going on in the fight. So that's a lot of fun stuff there too. Stealth was pretty basic. Like, there's nothing too crazy about it. You can simply like crouch. You can do your takedowns. You would simply like sort of walk up behind an enemy, taps. Well, for me, I was playing on the PlayStation, so I was tap square, and I would just choke them out to the point that there was a kill. Or you can use your knife and actually stab to kill them faster, but that would take away 1 durability of your knife. The knife had a mechanic of a whetstone. Once it's out of its durability, you need to use a whetstone to bring it back up to full. And I didn't do that as often. I only did a few small, simple takedowns with the knife to kill. But I mainly just choked them out because I was using that knife as my source of looting specific little chests you can find that would give you money. I was using the knife to make sure I'd have the durability to do that because I was, trying to collect things. So I would choke out the enemies. If I stabbed to kill, I stabbed to kill. Combat was the most basic. It wasn't the most best mechanic, but it was fine. It worked. There's a cover system. I think in the settings I left it so that when I would walk to a wall, depending on how tall it was, Enzo would automatically crouch depending on it. And cover shooter. Majority of the time I was headshotting enemies because on the hardest difficulty, I think I noticed that enemies would kill me if I was out of cover pretty much in 2 to 3 shots. Did not survive. I needed to hide behind cover because enemies, at least on the hard difficulty, that gave me the challenge was that they would actually try to swarm around you. And it's just like, crap. Especially when the dudes that walk up to you with a shotgun and don't care, you're just kind of dead in 2 hits. So you definitely needed to sort of maneuver around, make sure you target the correct enemies, and need to know how you reload. So a lot of the weapons are like, because it's olden style, they felt like they're old weapons. Like you probably had a best 5 to 6 shots on a weapon. I think the maximum was like 5 shots. And then you need to reload, and you need to wait for that. Don't aim while reloading because enemies just shoot you the crap out of you. But overall, I enjoyed my time playing this game. I had a lot of fun with it. I would recommend this as if you really want to get into the Mafia games, if you've never played them before, maybe on a personal touch, I would say go play Mafia 1 or Mafia 2. Sort of get the understanding of what Mafia is before jumping into the Old Country. I mean, you don't really need to because Mafia The Old Country is the prequel to Mafia 1 and 2 and 3. It's set in the early times. But if you're looking for something that's sort of this really deep difference of a significant upgrade, I don't think it's here. This is just a linear story. It's all about the story, as with all the Mafia games. They've always sort of been like that. So I think at this point I'm sort of going to now jump into spoiler territory. I'm going to just start going from there. I'm just going to give a brief run through the story sort of to the point of the end. Just point some things out here where it's sort of pivotal, and we'll go from there. So, spoiler warning at this point right now. So, Enzo, once you guide and play through Enzo's story, you get out of the mines, and he ends up on Don Torrisi's land. He's saved, and he meets Luca for the first time, and he meets Don Torrisi and Tino, and they basically take him in, bring him into their side of the family, and he works. It's also where he meets Cesare, and it's also where he meets Isabella, where he's love interest for the game. And thus begins, the forbidden romance that he has, which is another story aspect of the game. That's also a driving point for him. So as you go through, you get to meet these characters, you get to learn more about them. I think I enjoyed the time that Enzo has when he's talking to both Cesare, Leo, and Luca. The interactions between all of them, they were nice and fun stuff. When you need to travel from destination to destination as part of a story, they do give you the option to skip it. I didn't skip those because I kind of wanted to know how much they put into just the talking of characters during driving. And there's quite a bit of dialogue that goes there. So and you sort of get to know the characters a little more. But I definitely say I enjoyed the back and forth between these characters. So once you get past chapter 4, the story definitely starts to pick up. It starts sort of escalating a bit higher. Enzo becomes more integrated into the family after you do more missions, and his secret love affair with Isabella is somewhat suspicious of Tino, but he can't prove anything. He is suspicious, but he can't see anything for certain. So as you progress through the game, to a point where there is a pivotal moment in which that sort of drives Enzo to sort of realize he shouldn't be with the family anymore. Because I'll say this, when Don Torrisi talks, the one thing I loved was just listening to the Don talk. I was like, I'm here for it. Because I love that interaction. It was just, there's something about it that just like, yeah, it's nice. It's so good.
What you did for her, for our family, took courage. Luca tells me this is not the first time you've shown instinct in the face of danger. Bravery is not common in this world, and so loyalty, honor, obedience. They set a man apart from the rest.
And you have these moments with Don Torrisi. So it's always good to see that. As you progress through the story, we get to, like, I'd say chapters 5 and 6 do a little bit of elevation. There's sort of like a low moment where I sort of discussed it before, like there's a nod to the first game with the racing car section. And it's just a simple point in the game where they want to win a race, and we're going to do it like Mafia style, where we're going to cheat, lying and cheating. And you need to do the race. The race was, yeah, I was terrible at driving. I had to like do it once or twice. But they do, and the thing was, I think they should have at least let you go, all right, this is the track, run a lap around it. You don't even really get to do that. You're kind of just thrown into the race, and it's just like, good luck. And there you are, when you pay it in the story, they tell you there are shortcuts. The girls, the ladies of the night will point you in the direction. You just have to look for them, and you just take those shortcuts, and that'll help you sort of try to catch up and get to first place. As once you get to, and I would definitely say like the story of this game just rams up by the time it's chapter 8 or 9. That's sort of where things really start escalating in the story. Between Don Torrisi and Don Spadaro, the tensions of war is sort of like, it's going to happen. You can foresee it coming. There is going to be a war because the sides of the families cannot keep people in check. And it's more to the point that aspect in the story, Don Torrisi, they find out that Spadaro is building up stronger forces, and they can't have that. One cannot elevate above the other. There always has to be some like a balance. So you begin like a quest mission where you need to infiltrate like a police prison to rescue a forger. And with the forger, they begin their secondary side part of their business, which is counterfeiting money. That was a thing then. So they work into that, which that was a pretty fun, unique mission. That was fun. Just get the forger out of there, and the story sort of progresses from there. Part of the events of the game lead to this point where, and I would say like the most pivotal aspect of the story to going into this is where, for me, favorite is Luca. Unfortunately, Luca dies.
War's bad for business. You want a settlement? We have a proposal.
We?
Please, hear him out.
What is this?
Fontanella's are selling up, Torrisi. His estate in the mine, prospecting, and water rights on the east side of the valley, including his vineyard, which you've taken as your home.
I ask again. What is this?
I have been left with no choice.
I'll offer market rate for your remaining holdings as a mark of respect.
You can't be serious.
Bernardo, please. Don't stand in the way of progress.
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 And what happens when the land is stripped bare? will you line your pockets then, huh? No, this is an affront.
It's an opening position. I see it's not been very well received. The Baron and I must confer. We may have a more agreeable alternative.
Did you know about this?
No, this is the first I've heard of it.
I think I can convince him. Let me give him one more chance.
No.
Get down! Move! Down! Down! Enzo!
And it's at that point that, you know, and he has that moment of talking to Enzo just before he dies. Get out if you can. For for yourself. And so that sort of resonates with Enzo. And by this point, you know, the secret relationship he has with Isabella is to getting to the point that she's carrying his child. And it's sort of like, and Enzo is sort of in that moment of like, Enzo's going through this moment of being torn between, he's trying to keep his loyalty to the family, but he's also trying to hold on to the relationship, the best thing he has. And he wants to find a way to be with Isabella. And I believe, he believes at least if I climb through the ranks and Don Torrisi trusts him, he'll give him what he wants. Which really doesn't really happen that way. So as we get to a pivotal moment as well in the game, because war is happening there, after Luca's death, war is a thing. Don Torrisi knows that their backs against the wall, so ask Enzo to do basically kind of like, I have a mission for you, sort of like kind of like not a John Wick situation, no. Give you one mission, an impossible task. You complete it, you go. But Enzo doesn't really go after that. He's still in servitude to the Don. I have an impossible mission for you. Go and kill Don Spadaro and Baron Fortunala. You need to take these men out. So you actually go outside of the main map into another whole new area, and you need to take out these men.
An enemy can't hurt you like a friend. In hell, the lowest circle is reserved for sinners guilty of treachery. Fontanella's made a choice. And Spadaro won't stop now. He can't. All that I have, all that we have, will be lost. Unless we do what they can't expect.
A lot of things you don't see take place in between. Like, just the years go by, and, you know, things just are happening as it is. So it's very linear in that just time is moving. And by the time you do the final deed in chapters 9 to 10, when you do that final part, it's cleanup mode for Don Torrisi to just fully take over, find every mole, every rat, kill them. As you clean up, which I think is why I think this game's ending needed a little more time to just cook. Because I think when I was watching, I think it was Gaming Bolts. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I was just watching a video where they explained that the ending felt rushed, and I have to agree. I think it was just a fraction rushed a bit too much. I love the story. I was hooked on the aspect of things. I was into it. I know for a fact, going into this being a Mafia game, the thing to understand is that it's never a happy ending. So, like, when I said I was like checking out like the Reddit comments of people, like what people's opinions were, people weren't happy with the way the game ended. And either it occurs to me that either you've never played a Mafia game before, or maybe you just weren't expecting a sad ending. So it's a sad ending, but it suits it. That's the thing. You can kind of see it coming. Like, you kind of have to expect that, you know. I think what's the pivotal aspect of this? What's a quote they say? Like, the thing being in a mafia family is that family takes sacrifice, and so in order to find your dreams, if you're in debt with the family, sacrifices must be made. For Enzo, you know, he's now at that point where he's like, I have to leave. Take Isabella and just leave. So over the course of the game that you don't see is that, you know, he's planning and plotting with Isabella that they will leave on a day and they'll get to Empire Bay, where they can just live away from the family and get away from everything. And there are allies that help him with that, but unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way. So it's just, and I think that it could have used maybe an extra chapter or two to really sort of just flesh out the escape, the planning, the plotting, you know, the other family members becoming suspicious of Enzo and Isabella, to the point that it really sort of makes sense. Like, because I felt like that no one really had a clue except Tino was the most suspicious of them, and he was the only one. Obviously, and the reason I find out about that is because Tino interrogates a priest that after a mission you do, and it's pretty much like that's what happens. You get to the point in the game where you think they can try to escape, they get ambushed, everyone is pissed, even Don Torrisi. Don Torrisi basically thinks it's I think what was it? It was an abomination for Isabella to be carrying his child, for Enzo's child, in a really rude fashion of it, but I think it made sense in its time because he's a carusu. He's a mine boy. He is lower class. He does not match up to where we are. Although he's been climbing the ranks, and that's how it's sort of like Enzo sees, like, you've always seen me as a mine boy. You never saw me as anything else. So you get that impression, and yeah, I felt bad for Enzo at that point. I'm like, oh man, I never really saw him as anything but like a soldier. Yes, he's been loyal, but they never really saw him anything beyond that because he came from the mines. So in the ending of the game, towards the end, you know, you have this moment where you have to, like, Enzo is fighting for his life. He's trying to get to Isabella. He wants to escape. You fight through Don Torrisi's family. You engage in the knife fights with Cesare and Don Torrisi. Cesare was interesting of a fight because, you know, because after what Enzo has done, they all felt betrayed. They've all felt like you've let down his family. How could you do this? You must die for what you have done. And you don't kill, and Enzo doesn't kill Cesare because Cesare is his friend. And I guess also at the points in this game, Cesare also at a certain point, at a point in the game, Cesare felt that he was, I guess he felt jealousy because he was trying to climb the rank as well, but he was so laid back they couldn't trust him with it. And instead, you know, the main point of choice to go to was Enzo to do the deed, and they couldn't trust Cesare to do it. So I can see that Cesare felt jealousy, that he wasn't looked at the same way. But you have that fight with Cesare, and there is a bit of emotional aspect to it because it's like you could have had everything and you threw it away. Once you beat Cesare, you don't kill them. You're just trying to. Enzo just wants to escape, and in doing so, you end up fighting the Don. You must you fight Don Torrisi. You have that fight, and that's also where that's how Enzo is sort of seeing you never saw me as anything but a mine boy. So, once you beat Don Torrisi, and I understand now why people were they didn't like how it is because you beat him, you kill him. As he's leaving, he sees Cesare. Cesare says, "Come on," and they sort of embrace. And then at that moment, Cesare kills him, stabs him on the side, because Cesare is still loyal to the family. He believes in this cause. For him, the most honorable, as part of the family, you have betrayed the family. The deed must be done. You must die. So he kills him in believing that this is the way that has to be done. Unbeknownst to them at the same time, because in this game in a moment as well, there's a volcano in the background, which actually erupts and starts setting off brimstone. It's flinging up. The volcano is erupting. The land is being destroyed. In the final aspects of this game, Isabella, you take control of Isabella because unfortunately Enzo is dead. And I could see where a lot of people were just complaining, well, what was the point for it all? Enzo's dead. What was the point of everything? Because with Isabella, it does escape. You need to escape the Don Torrisi family house, and you have to deal with Torino. Oh my god, I'm forgetting a name here. Tino. You have to deal with Tino. Once that's done, Cesare then arrives. And I think in that moment as well, Cesare kind of just realizes that this was for nothing. There is nothing left because the house is destroyed thanks to the volcano. So he just gives Isabella the train tickets. There's nothing left for you here. Go. And he doesn't say what happened to Enzo because it's just obvious that, and Isabella can see that he dies. So Isabella makes it to Empire City. And I think in that moment as well, Cesare just kind of realizes I killed him for nothing because there's nothing left. The entire Torrisi family hold is gone. There's nothing here. It's all been wiped out thanks to the volcano. So it is a sad ending. Isabella is able to make it. She's on the boat, and in the distance you see Empire City. Empire Bay. That's sort of where the game ends. There's no other sort of dialogue or stuff like that. It sort of ends on that note. I understand where people are coming from, why they don't like the ending, but I'm actually okay with this ending. I understand in the Mafia, if you have gone against it, if you don't pay your dues now, eventually they will catch up to you. It happened with Tommy in the first game. So Tommy is able to live through. He survives. Is it Tommy? I'm making sure I'm trying to remember this correctly. It's been so long, and a part of me feels like I should have played Mafia 1 or 2 just to sort of get back into the feel of it, but it's fine. But yeah, Tommy from the first game, he survives, but in the first game, it is shown that he will die. It's in the intro, and that connects into Mafia 2, where when you play as Vito and his best friend Joe, you are the assassins to Tommy. So if not you're able to escape, the life will catch up to you. And for Tommy, it was just in the older years. For Enzo, it happened instantly. So I get it. I understand that it's not what people want out of a game. It's no happy ending, but it doesn't need to be a happy ending. There just needs to be a story. It's just a game that tells a story from point A to point B with a middle, beginning, middle, end of the life inside a crime family. I still think this is a great game. If you've never played a Mafia game before, I'd say give it a crack. Maybe even definitely go play first Mafia 1 and Mafia 2. I still think Mafia 2 was probably my favorite. I still love this game. This is definitely up there for me, just because it just follows the same standard as Mafia 1, Mafia 2. So I hope that Hangar 13 is able to sort of like, the fact that they even got this game out is something. But I'm hoping that they, after this, they're able to sort of like, you know, be given the green light for a new budget to push out another Mafia game. Mafia 4, I'd still be perfectly fine if we were still working between back to 1930, work in a different city, a different mafia. Maybe, I think Chicago was a choice, because Empire based on New York. We've been Sicily, Italy. We've been in Lost Haven for... Empire City was Mafia 2. Lost Haven was Mafia 1. I don't know what that city was based on. If it was Chicago or not, I can't remember. I'm sorry if I don't know. But I definitely see that we could go back. If they do get greenlit and they're able to make a new game, I'd like them to go to even do early 1930s, 1940s, 1950 Mafia, like that time frame. Yeah, give us another one. I'm cool with it. It doesn't need to be a sequel. It can just be another prequel. It could just be a sequel to Mafia The Old Country, maybe set in the time frame there. That's a possibility. Or it's just like a whole brand new crime family syndicate. I'm okay with that. I look forward to new stuff. I enjoyed my time. Mafia The Old Country is a good game. That ratio of like 7.9 to 8, I think sits fine. Like 7 to 8 of this game is what the review critics are, because we're praising everything about the game: story, environment, characters. Combat is what lets the game down. I think combat is definitely a bit of a letdown, but that's to be expected. I wasn't expecting anything grand. I was surprised there was even stealth, to be truthfully honest. When I saw the previews for the game, I was like, oh, there is stealth. Oh, there is somewhat of aspect to it where when you stealthing and if they find bodies, they sort of get suspicious. So it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. So wasn't expecting, you know. So the fact they got this game out, even in itself, is true testament to them being able to be like, okay, we know what we're good at. After people really saw positive reviews on the remake of Mafia 2, we know what we're good at. We're good at telling a story. We're good at introducing characters that you can get to know and see how their interactions are. Because mainly, as far as I see it, when you play Mafia, you're in it for the story. You want to know what's going on, what things are good, what's going to happen when when the shit hits the fan. So, yeah, that's the life of the crime family. So, this was a great game. I'd recommend it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to and hoping that Hangar 13 is able to get some good positive outcome out of this, that they can get greenlit to go ahead and make a new Mafia game. I hope they can, because I'm looking forward to some new. I would be down for more Mafia type games. We don't really get to have these type of games anymore, so kudos to Hangar 13. Well done on this one. Anyway, and yeah, so thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of this, and I will catch you guys in the next video.